How are we doing today, everybody? And welcome to today's edition of Cubs Daily. My name is Steven Ryan, presented by Fan Arch. We're going to talk about non-tender Friday. Here is for the MLB offseason. This is where teams choose whether or not they want to tender contracts to players that are getting close to potential free agency or arbitration eligible potential players that might be getting a raise. And we're going to start off with the prime example here in Adolis Garcia, okay? Adolis Garcia is arbitration eligible and will likely be getting a raise. And rumor has it that the Rangers might be looking to trade him before the tender date later on today. Now, why would they want to do this? They want to do this because they necessarily won't want to pay him what arbitration is going to want to give him. Now, if we've gone over this briefly before, and again, I'm not completely familiar with it, but again, arbitration is basically player B thinks he should be getting paid more and then goes to court. That is where the judge judges whether the player should make more money or go side with the team. The team's going to offer an amount of money, the player's going to want an offer amount of money, and then the judge kind of coincides, sees where the numbers go, etc., etc. So, Adolis Garcia, arbitration eligible, he is going to probably get a big raise. Now, is he an absolute good baseball player? Yes, absolutely. Did he help the Rangers win a World Series? Yes, maybe one of the most special postseason runs I've ever remembered in my lifetime. Now, Rangers are kind of in limbo, right? They got a lot of money committed to Seager and Simeon. Their pitching staff is a little bit older. Do they have some young talent? Absolutely. But they're going to be looking to cut costs, especially entering 2026, going into the lockout, right? They did not make the postseason. They kind of made a little bit of a push towards the end, but they fell apart. And just kind of those woes from the 2023 run were still kind of lingering. And they're not quite sure where they want to go. So they might want to be shedding salary as much as possible. Now, instead of just non-tendering Garcia is a good enough player that they could potentially trade him to another club where that he could serve value to that club, and the Rangers could get something in return without just letting him walk necessarily. I'm all here to say this for, the fact that, hey, the Cubs are looking for a DH hitter or a right hitter. I like Adolis Garcia. And honestly, right here on Cubs Daily, ladies and gentlemen, I want to improve the team. Okay? Do I think Adolis Garcia improves our team? Yes. He is a really good baseball player. Has he had some bad injuries? Yes, of course. Not so much great injury luck, etc., etc. But, the baseball player that we're getting with Adolis Garcia is a really, really solid one. Now, last year, again, not necessarily
don't know
his strongest season.
Going to come from
227. He was still a 2.7 WAR.
With that as
not
well.
too bad, in my opinion.
Couple programming
again,
notes, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's take a look here more down these stats right here. Obviously, Friday, so I'm going to be going
magical
over
season.
Some of your guys and gals' comments. He's a career 237 hitter.
Again, share your
nothing
thoughts down below in this video.
You
can be
nothing
featured in the video tomorrow.
Over the top
if you guys
with
are
him.
new to the channel,
Two-time All-Star,
like button and subscribe
MVP.
to Cubs
That's where he
Daily.
just
Will be
popped
coming
off
at you
against
Monday
Houston.
through Friday
I would
during
be
the off season.
intrigued
and
to see what his
happens
cost
over the
would
weekend.
be.
We'll
I
do a
guess
special
more my
episode
point
for that
is,
as well. So
I'm not
hope
sure
you all
how
have
much
an
he would improve our team. But like you said,
fantastic
arbitration eligible in
Thursday,
2026,
and I will see you
free
guys soon.
agent, etc.,
Peace.
etc. And I really think if the cost is right, maybe Texas is just desperate enough. Not desperate enough, but they're just like, hey, I don't want to pay him what arbitration's going to pay him, but I would like to maybe get something in return. I'm not sure what that value would be, especially since it's only going to be a one-year deal. It's not going to be a lot. And again, the Cubs have a lot of players that need to, again, like here's an example. Would you trade Kevin Alcantara for Adolis Garcia? Straight up. I'm thinking about it personally because, again, Kevin Alcantara needs a place to play. He's not going to play at Wrigley Field right now. That's just a plain simple fact, right? With Ian Happ out there, Pete Crow Armstrong, right field is open, but Kevin Alcantara is blocked by Owen Casey and Seiya Suzuki. Now, Steven, you're saying Adolis Garcia, wouldn't he just block? Yes, but Adolis Garcia is a much more proven bat than Kevin Alcantara, and for one season, I wouldn't mind that potential fit with the Cubs. Now, am I saying it's going to happen? Absolutely not. I do not think it's necessarily going to go down, But, sometimes you just got to get into it and think about those ideas. Now, as for the Chicago Cubs, okay, we do have 4 players that are eligible to be tendered or non-tendered, okay? The arbitration-eligible players in question are Justin Steele, Eli Morgan, Reese McGuire, and I want to say Javier Assad, okay? Odds are Reese McGuire is not going to be tendered a contract. Basically, to non-tender a contract, you're just not signing them for that year, straight up. Was he really solid for us? I couldn't have asked more from Reese McGuire than what he gave us in a Cubs uniform. But if Miguel Amaya is healthy and Carson Kelly's there's just no place for him on the roster. Now, could he go to AAA? Sure. But the 40-man roster is sacred, and we need to make sure we fill that roster accordingly. So I would imagine that Reese McGuire is not going to be tendered a contract in that situation. Another guy, Eli Morgan, he was hurt most of the year. His few starts with the Cubs, he was really, really rocky. Now, the front office does think that was more due to the injury than the actual player himself, because in 2024, he had a 1.93 ERA with the Guardians. He was really, really solid. So, again, maybe give him another flyer. Again, I'm not sure how much he would cost necessarily, but I think the Cubs want to use him as a part of their bullpen solution and not tender him, okay? Another guy, Justin Steele, obviously we're going to tender him a contract. We know what he is capable of, even though that left-handed injury did not help us by any means. He's going to go to court. He's going to get paid accordingly, and hopefully we can get him back in May or early June to help solidify this rotation. And last but not least on this list is going to be Javier Assad. Last year, we just really didn't get to see the full share of Javier Assad, right? Because the injury kept him out for most of the year. He returned to the team in August, and he was just kind of used as not a back end of the game guy, definitely, but like middle relief, kind of like garbage innings kind of pitcher. Spots started here and there for the team as well. I do believe Javier Assad's going to be tendered a contract because his numbers with the Cubs are pretty solid. Do I think he's pitching above his, his wall? Yes, I do think he's performing above his skill set. But again, the numbers are there. He has been pretty solid for us, so I do think that does earn him a contract. Now, do I think that's going to be on borrowed time? Potentially, right? If the Cubs are interested in making a move, they will tender him a contract, and they could potentially trade him to another team as part of a package to get something else, right? I see Javier Assad as more of like not a throw-in, but like, for example, right? When you trade for a big-time player, okay? Again, this is a hypothetical, okay? When you trade for a big-time player, like let's say a big-time starting pitcher, that team that loses the starting pitcher is going to need a guy to fill in the innings that the Cubs are taking place of. The prize of the trade is the prospects, but they might not be at the big league level yet. So you need a guy like Javier Assad or Ben Brown to fill those innings as those young players develop. And that's kind of where I see Javier Assad. If the Cubs are going to make a trade for a big-time pitcher, he will be a part of that deal. Not as in like the star of the shiny new toy of it, but the guy you could throw into the deal to help supplement that team that's losing that big-time player. Another name that I saw on some lists here for the non-tendering of the Friday deals is one Camilo Doval, okay? A reliever option, in my opinion, that could be worth a flyer, okay? So Camilo Doval has been very, very up or down in his very brief career, right? He came up in 2021. He's got a 3.39 career ERA. It was last year and this year, he's kind of been rocky. Just never really able to kind of figure it out. He ended up being on the Yankees. Just never did it. But again, those first 3 seasons with the Giants, unbelievable. He had 39 saves in 2023, a 2.93 ERA. That guy, he has that kind of potential. Camilo Doval, very, very good stuff. Throws 103, wicked off-speed stuff. He's the kind of guy I think the Cubs should absolutely take a look at if no one's interested in giving him a contract. You know what I'm saying? I mean, 103, again, we need more swing and miss type stuff in this bullpen. in this pitching staff in general. So do I think he could be an excellent fit? Pair him alongside Danny Palencia at the back end? Absolutely. Do I think he'd be worth a trade piece? Yes. Because again, when you're trading for these non-tender guys, unless they are an absolute above-ski superstar, which again, those players don't get to this point. You generally are tendering them a contract, whether they're arbitration eligible or not. He's worth a little trade piece because, again, the Cubs have a lot of supply in the minors that need major league homes coming soon, and it's not going to be at Wrigley Field. So that's where I kind of think Camilo Doval would be an excellent fit for the Cubs. And again, we're trying to revamp the bullpen a little bit. Rumor has it we're not going to be bringing back Brad Keller because he's got a lot of interest elsewhere. So these are kind of the moves the Cubs would want to make going into 2026, trading for some guys, tendering them a contract just for this year, and then once 2027 hits and we get through the lockout and all that stuff, that's when we will reassess and do our damage. Now, let's get to the final segment of the week, ladies and gentlemen. It is reading your guys and gals' comments. You guys are the absolute best. Please keep this momentum rolling. I got a few of them here for you guys as well, so please bear with me on this one, okay? The first few are going to be quick. The other ones are a little bit longer. But again, I really, really appreciate you guys sharing your thoughts. And if you're new to the channel, please share your thoughts in the comment section. Whether you're subscribed or not, you could be featured on Cubs Daily. We're doing this every Friday going forward. Now, if you guys do have a question for me, I would be happy to answer those in a mailbag type thing. Just drop them in the comment section. I am happy to answer it on that front. So let's just get the party started, shall we? This was a couple weeks ago. We had a lot of comments a couple weeks ago that I couldn't get to, but here we go. I really hope Imanaga stays. I love that guy. Well, you're in luck. He's coming back for at least one more year, and I fully agree with you on that sentiment. I love Shota. I think he's an excellent teammate. He did lose his stuff at the end of last season, but that doesn't mean he can't regroup and be better for it, right? I think injury had a lot to do with that, and he's definitely a lot more towards that guy we saw his rookie year than the guy we saw at the end of last year. Next up on the docket, G7, again, he said, Nico's going to cost you $15 to $20 million a year. If Swanson and Happ are raking money, then so will Nico. Now, G7, I think you shared this thought. You shared it 6 days ago. I remember saying like a hypothetical situation where, the Cubs, if you want to sign Nico Hoerner to a 4-year, $40 million deal, you do that, right? So G7, do I agree with you that Nico should be worth that amount of money? Yes. But what we see Nico as value as, Major League Baseball does not do the same, okay? I'm telling you that right now. As much as Gold Glove defense and contact hitting is absolutely an essential in the game, the one thing that Dansby Swanson and Ian Happ bring more to the table more than Nico Hoerner is that slug, that power, okay? They each hit 20-plus home runs, which, again, you just can't teach, Nico Hoerner hits for an incredible average. He hits better than both of them, right? Those guys are more towards league average. He is well above league average. He's top 3 in hitting this season. And, yeah, he just does not hit for a lot of home runs, which is fine. Not every player is going to hit for a lot of home runs. But if it's $15 to $20 million to sign Nico, I say sign him. Sign him yesterday. But do I think that's going to be his price tag? No, I do not think that's going to be his price tag. I see his price tag being more in that $10 to $13 million range. But again, that's just my opinion. My opinion doesn't mean anything. I'm just here sharing my thoughts. So let's continue the train. So these next ones are a little bit lengthy, so please bear with me. TW, he was on last week's. Please, I appreciate this guy so much. He gives me really good things to think about and a lot of different prospects. This is in reference to Eugenio Suarez. We talked about him in yesterday's video. So Suarez as a fit is growing on me. With up to, say, $15 million left in the budget, because Shota, re-signed, $18 million going to Suarez still leaves rooms for a closer type and some relief pitching, while still making a trade for another starting pitcher. Is Suarez goal number one, though? Timing will be crucial now. With Shota taking his chunk of the budget, every move takes more flexibility away from Jed to make other moves. Master plan if Suarez is the must-have bat this offseason. 18 for Suarez, 15 on a 1 year for Scherzer, who will hold up at 41 under the 6-man rotation. Gives Jed room to trade for another starting pitcher still under control, and pick up another closer to let Palencia have a rotation. Everyone on the short-term flexible deals Jed is looking for.
Scherzer finished the year solid once he got healthy. Wrigley wins and PCA holding down center would help Scherzer hold up. Too crazy? TW, the Scherzer idea is not crazy. I just don't think the Cubs are going to do it. I think that's way too much money for that age of a pitcher. Also, I heard today that he's probably going to be a Giant. He's got a lot of connections there. And again, he's still, like you said, he's 41. He might not want to come back. But after the way the Blue Jays lost the World Series, I would not be surprised if he ran it back there with them as well. So I don't think you're 100% crazy. I like the idea. It's actually a fun little spitball test that you're giving me, my man. But do I think Suarez is a fit? Yes. Do I think he's our number one plan? No, I do not think he's our number one plan. But do I think it works out for our plan? Yeah, I think it could work out. Again, I was just discussing a potential trade for Camilo Doval. There's ways to do things in baseball, right, without just signing free agents. And yeah, I think a 1-2 year deal for Eugenio Suarez is kind of right up the Cubs' alley. And again, I want to see the test myself. I want to see Eugenio Suarez, who owns Wrigley, who owns the Cubs. I've gone to like 8 games with Eugenio Suarez in it, and I swear to God he's gone yard in all of them. I want to see it. I want to see him go to Wrigley, hit 55 home runs because it's what he does. And, hey, I think that'd be a little bit fun. And again, that offensive production would propel this team to a whole nother level. And I think Matt Shaw would still get a lot of good quality time to develop at the big league level. So I don't disagree with that completely. I don't think it's too crazy. I just don't think Scherzer's going to be the one the Cubs go out and get. All right, we got our main man, Chris, okay? He said, regarding Suarez, I still like his bat. I believe his defense is dropping off. Chris, I don't think he would play much defense. I definitely think he would be a DH for the Cubs. If the Cubs do not have to package Matt Shaw a deal for a true ace, then he becomes a utility infielder with upside. Absolutely. From all that I'm seeing, it looks like estimated $30 million per year with 2 or 3 year contract. Don't know that I would want to pay him at versus Bregman. Maybe 2 years, $56 million with a 3rd year option? Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure if I want either of those guys necessarily at that price. With that money and show, there's not a lot of money left to round out a bullpen, let alone signing Dylan Cease, Framber Valdez, even King, etc. So they will have to make a trade for a number 1 starter. But that is looking less likely if a team such as the Twins, Tigers, or Nationals, they want a top-tier potential starter back, and the Cubs are so thin in the minors and top-tier pitching. They will have to overall sell their top position players, so you definitely need a controllable arm that you could extend after the CBA. Chris, yes, you make an excellent point on that front. I don't know what the cost is, but all I know is this, is that the leverage for those guys, like a Skubal, like a Mackenzie Gore, like an Edward Cabrera, the leverage is getting more and more favor of the Cubs. Joe Ryan's the other one you're talking about. The leverage is becoming more and more favor of the Cubs because time is ticking. They're losing control day by day of these pitchers, and they have to make a move soon. Otherwise, they're losing value. So the Cubs can kind of sit on their hands a little bit, not too much. But I don't think they're going to get that top pitching prospect, because if you have a top pitching prospect, why wouldn't you just want to see that top pitching prospect yourself, So, again, I don't know what the teams are. I think the Nationals are going to be the first one to bite the bullet. The Twins are second. The Tigers, honestly, they're going to look at options for Skubal, but there's going to be nothing that really comes close to what they want. And honestly, I can see them just letting him walk and just trying another run at this AL Central thing this next year. You know what I'm saying? Because he's just too good of a pitcher. He's just too dominant. He's the back-to-back Cy Young Award winner, and he might do it again for a 3rd time. Because who in the AL is going to beat him? Right? Who's going to beat him? So, Chris, yeah, I think you make some excellent points there, my man. I'm not sure if we're going to be trading. See, I don't know what I consider Joe Ryan. Do I think he's an ace? Do I think he's the number 1 pitcher on a team? Yes. But do I think he's an ace? Is he a guy that I can throw out there all the time and know I'm getting 6, 7, 8 innings? I don't know if that's quite proven yet to me. Again, I'm very stringent on those terms, right? I don't know if you guys have ever seen the haircut commercial for Sportscuts, but they said legendary haircuts. You got to do some shit to be a legendary haircut. You know what I'm saying? You have to accomplish a lot over a long period of time. So for Joe Ryan to be a true ace to me, I need to see this for 3 or 4 more seasons. I just don't throw that term out there lightly. Let's take a look at Joe Ryan real quick, kind of before I get ahead of myself, because I'm kind of just speaking out of the top of my head. I'm not necessarily speaking necessarily the truth. Oops, that one's just not ready. So I'll just read these stats to you really, really quickly. Okay. Okay. So last year was 13-10, 3.42, 4.5 WAR. Not bad, not bad. Yeah, he's pitched 5 years. He's been solid, 3.79 ERA. Give me like 2 or 3 more seasons of like a 2.5 to 3 ERA, and you're above a 4 WAR. I will consider you an ace. Now, am I interested in the Cubs maybe taking that on not as a project, but like as a bit of a bet, right? Like we're betting on him becoming more of an ace during his physical prime, like the ages 29, 30, 31 season. Now I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by that. But I think he would be more as a guideline to follow for Cade Horton, if you know what I'm saying, right? Like, we get Joe Ryan. He's our number one on our team for a year or two, while Cade Horton really starts to ramp up and develop, and then he becomes the number one overall in the end. So that's going to do it for today's edition of Cubs Daily. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys are enjoying the content, please hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.